And as I said, in the matter of the people of the state of Michigan versus Michael Lee Allison. So Mr. Glazier, we had this matter set for a pre-trial bench conference today. Have you had enough time to speak with myself and Mr. Hartung?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
All right. And have you had ample time to speak with your client?
Yes, sir.
All right. And how would your client like to proceed today?
Your Honor, I think there's going to be an amended complaint filed at some point that'll have a count of second-degree murder. It's my understanding that my client would plead to second-degree murder with, I don't know, is it a Cobbs or a killer?
Well, we can put on the record that there were discussions in back regarding potential sentences if he were to plead guilty to an added count 3 second-degree murder. That is a life offense. Is that correct?
That is correct.
That's correct.
But we ran the guidelines in back according to the law.
Go into that in great detail.
Yep, and we determined the guideline range would be 162 to 270 months. And there was a discussion that 20 years would be acceptable to all the parties. Is that correct? As a minimum sentence?
That's the agreement as I understand it, Your Honor, yes.
That is your.
Okay, all right. So, and Mr. Hartung, your office will amend the information
We will.
today.
We will do that.
Okay, all right. So, and as I said, the guidelines, we need Jen Walsh, she's here. Hold on. I forgot.
Judge Paulette's getting somebody over.
Yeah, Miss Walsh is just logged on. I'm sorry. When it's not a Wednesday, I forget to call on DOC sometimes. Miss Walsh. Jennifer Walsh. Ms. Robinson and Mr. Tipton, I'm popping in the waiting room. Oh, there you go, Ms. Walsh, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, this is in the matter of the people of the state of Michigan versus Michael Lee Allison, file number 22-20996 FC. The plea offer that has been made today would be that Mr. Allison would plead to an added count 3 second-degree murder. And the guidelines were calculated to be 162 to 270 months. And his minimum term, basically Cobb's or Kilbert, whatever it might be. There's been a long, lengthy discussion this morning. His minimum sentence would be 20 years with Michigan Department of Corrections. All right. Okay. All right. So Mr. Ellison, you want to raise your right hand for me? Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, Your Honor.
So I'm going to need you to speak up loudly, and if you think you can't, you can always stand at the podium too, okay? So can you state your full name for the record?
Michael Lee Allison.
Now, Mr. Ellison, we've been here for almost an hour this morning, and you've had an opportunity to speak with your attorney. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you understand your attorney and the prosecutor and myself also met for about 40 minutes and back discussing this case. Do you understand that?
Yes.
And your attorney fully explained that to you?
Yes, Your Honor.
And he's explained the plea offer to you,
Yes, Your Honor.
the ramifications? Are you satisfied with Mr. Glazier as your attorney and the advice that he's given you?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. So you've heard the statement. Did I swear I'm in this favor? Yes, I did.
Your Honor, before we
Yes.
there should be another part of that. And we didn't talk about that. We don't, I guess we'd want an agreement that the top end would not be like the top end would be a
Term of years.
as well.
We didn't agree to that.
I know we did, but otherwise it makes no sense.
Take a break.
Okay. So Mr. Ellison can have a seat over there if you want. Mr. Hartung and Mr. Glazier, can you approach?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mine is,
It's just if it's like, it's not- I told what's that?
I would ask how old the defendant is.
I don't care what it
I need to make sure that it's.
So. yeah, yes.
I just don't.
Well, are you fine with the termination?
Fine.
Okay, well, there's no guarantee what that will be.
I need to explain it to these guys.
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead and take a second. All right. Okay. Okay, Miss Walsh, give me a minute. I'm gonna pop back to my other hearing. All right, so Mr. Glazier, before we took a break, you had talked about the sentence being life or a term of years. So where do we stand on that conversation?
We would, I think we've been in agreement that the high end would be a term of years, and I realize it could be 150, 200 years, you can put it whatever you want. But the reason is, Your Honor, we don't think on a life, we don't parole the same as a term of years on both ends.
Mr. Hartung, any position whether I sentence him to the minimum to life or a minimum to whatever term of years I choose?
Sorry about the maximum.
I mean,
I understand what you're saying. So we took a break, the record just so that we had a discussion with people who are here on behalf of the victims, and they understand this now, and we are in agreement that the 20 can be to a number, whatever the number that the judge determines at that point in time, that would be adequate for everybody and acceptable to everybody.
Mr. Glazier,
That's fine.
okay, and Mr. Ellison, do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so, Mr. Ellison, do you fully understand the plea offer?
I do, Your Honor.
You understand the potential sentence?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, and you've heard both the statement Mr. Hartung and your attorney made on the record.
Yes, Your Honor.
Is it your intention then to plead to an added count 3? It's second degree homicide is the statute, or
He's pleading to murder in the second degree, or homicide in the second degree.
homicide in the second degree? So is it your intention to plead guilty to that offense?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, and you understand the maximum penalty for this offense could be life or it could be a term of years. There's an agreement it'll be a term of years, but that's up to me at the end of the day. So your minimum sentence will be 20 years and your maximum sentence could be 40 years, 80 years, 100, whatever it might be. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And do you understand that other than that, well, other than that, neither the prosecutor, the defendant, nor anyone on the defendant's behalf has discussed any possible sentence other than that conversation with the court. Correct, Mr. Hartung?
That's correct.
Mr. Glazier?
That's correct. Your Honor.
Is that correct as far as you're aware, Mr.
Yes.
Allison? Okay. If a guilty plea is accepted, there will be no trial. This means that you will be giving up rights you would have had at trial. I'm going to explain those rights to you now to make sure that you understand them. You have a right to a speedy public trial by jury. You may ask for a non-jury trial, and if the prosecutor and court agree, you can have a non-jury trial. You have the right to be presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. You have the right to have the prosecuting attorney prove beyond a reasonable doubt that you are guilty and you do not have to prove anything. You have the right to be present at trial and have witnesses against you appear at your trial and to ask those witnesses questions. You have the right to have the court order any witnesses you have for your defense to appear at the trial. You have the right to remain silent during your trial, not to have your silence used against you. However, you also have the right to testify at your trial if you want to testify. Do you understand that if your plea is accepted, you may be giving up the right to appeal issues that would otherwise be appealable if you were convicted at trial? Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand that any appeal from the conviction and sentence pursuant to the plea will be by application for leave to appeal and not by right? Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
If you are not a citizen of the United States of America, a conviction of a crime may result in deportation, exclusion from admission to the United States of America, or denial of naturalization. Do you have any questions about the rights that I've given to you?
No, Your Honor.
So, Mr. Allison, how do you wish to plead to the charge that on or about July 4 of 2022 in Raisin Township in the county of Lenawee, that you did commit the offense of homicide second degree?
Okay, Your Honor, guilty.
Okay. Has anyone made any threats or promises to you to induce you to plead guilty to this charge other than the agreement placed on the record?
No, Your Honor.
Do you understand if I accept this plea, you will be giving up any and all claims that your plea is given as a result of threats or promises that were not disclosed to the court on the record during this hearing, or that it was not your own choice to enter the plea? Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is the prosecutor or defense counsel aware of any promises or threats or inducements other than the plea bargain to induce the defendant to plead guilty? Mr. Hartung?
None, Your Honor.
Mr. Glazer?
No, Your Honor.
Has your attorney promised you any particular sentence or estimated what your sentence will be outside of what we placed on the record already?
No, Your Honor.
Is it your own choice to plead guilty?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. So, Mr. Ellison, on July 4th of 2022, were you in Raisin Township in the county of Lenawee?
Yes, Your Honor.
And was that at your house?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. And at that time, did you have a gun in your possession?
Yes.
And did you shoot Nicole Marie Ellison 2 times?
Yes, Your Honor.
Was it in her back?
No, Your Honor.
Where did you shoot her?
In her right buttock and her left chest.
Okay. And did she die from those wounds?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Hartung, any further questions or?
No, I'm satisfied. Thank you, Your
All
Honor.
right. Has the court complied with the MCR 6.302 B, C, and D? Mr. Hartung?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Glazer?
Yes, Your Honor, but I would like to go over some things with my client before you accept it. Please.
Okay, go ahead.
Now to do that now. Mr. Allison, I want to put some things on the record that we discussed, just so that it's made a part of the record, okay?
Yes.
You and I had a chance to discuss the plea offer here today, is that correct?
Yes.
And I told you basically what the plea was going to be. And if you didn't want to do that, that we would leave it set for trial. The matter is set for trial, I think it's September, October, if I'm not mistaken. September, you understand that?
Yes, I do.
And you still want to go ahead and take this plea, is that correct?
Yes, I do.
Now, I've indicated to you that the judge, I, and the prosecutor had a lengthy discussion, half hour, 45 minutes back in chambers before I came to talk to you. Is that correct?
Yes.
And I told you that all 3 of us were in agreement that the sentence guidelines in these matters would be 162 months to 270 months. Do you understand that?
Yes.
And when we're talking about the minimum sentence, that's a sentence always has a minimum and a maximum. Do you understand that?
Yes.
And we're agreeing that your minimum will be 20 years and that your maximum will be a term of years, but it will not be life. It will be, could be 150 if the judge wanted to do that. You understand?
Yes, I do.
Your biggest concern is the minimum, because that's when you become eligible for parole.
Yes.
And we didn't want it as a life offense because it's my opinion that life offenses they do parole out second degree life once in a while, but it's not that likely. You understand?
Yes, I do.
So that's why we're asking for a term of years on both ends. You understand that?
I do.
Is there, and again, I have told you that the guidelines were 13 and a half to 22 and a half, but our discussion with the judge was that this was not going to be a minimum sentence, that would probably be closer to the higher end of the guidelines. You understand that?
I do.
And the other thing that you considered in this matter was there's a felony firearm, which would add an additional 2 years that is dismissed. You understand that?
I do.
And those 2 years wouldn't have ran concurrent. They would run at the end of your sentence on the second degree murder, the first degree murder, or the second degree murder.
John, let me interrupt you. They would run first.
You run first?
They run first.
Why always thought they were
Because
second.
because you have to have a parolable offense to come out of.
Oh, okay. Learn something new every day, but it still would not, they would not be living together, it'd be consecutive, you understand?
Yes.
Do you have any questions about what's going on?
You're not.
And you're sure this is what you want to do?
Yes,
You've had enough time to think this over and discuss the matter with me?
I have.
I don't have any other questions, Joey.
Mr. Hartung?
I have no question. Thank you, Your Honor.
Right, I accept, I believe I already asked that, whether I've complied with MCR 6.302 B, C, and D. So I accept the plea. It has, I know I asked that. So I accept the plea. It has been given understandably, voluntarily, and accurately. The defendant has full knowledge of his rights and he does have competent counsel. Other than the minimum of 20 years to a term of years at my discretion, this court has made no agreement regarding the possibility of a plea or possible sentence in this case with the prosecutor, the defense attorney, the defendant, or anyone acting in the interest of either of them. I'm going to refer this matter to the probation department for a pre-sentence investigation. Ms. Adams, could I ask, are there a lot of sentencings on May 30th?
Judge, there is 3 and drug court.
So do we know if someone's going to speak at
I'm
sentence?
sure someone will, at least one person.
Okay, so I would say, Ms. Adams, I'll set it on that date, but we probably don't want to set any more, so we have time for that. All right, so I'm going to set this for sentencing on May 30th at 8:15 in the morning. Available that day, Mr. Glazier
I'm always available.
and Mr. Hartung.
So yes, thank you.
Okay, and in person then?
Yes,
Okay, so we'll set it in person. All right, Mr. Allison, someone from the Michigan Department of Corrections come over to the jail. They'll come over there to speak with you. I'll have a packet to fill out and then they'll meet with you. Be truthful with them about your background and the events that occurred. And then they'll prepare a pre-sentence report. We'll provide a copy to your attorney. He'll review that with you and we'll be back here on May 30th at 8:15 in the morning, okay?
Thank you, Your
All
Honor.
right, thank you.
thank you, Your Honor.
Victim impact statements will be mailed out and provide those back to our probation department or the prosecutor's office, all right?
6-4, Wyatt Allison, file 52514, and Connor Allison, file 52515.
All right, the court has before it a petition to modify the minor guardianship. May I have the names of our participants beginning in the courtroom?
Linda Schneider. I'm free. Now
Ready.
guardian.
Get that name. Did you say that again?
I'm sorry, I can't hear.
Say your name again.
Linda Schneider.
Thank you. And your names?
Cindy Wingfield.
Would you spell that for us?
It's WINGFIELD.
Frank Wingfield,
What's your first name?
Frank,
Thank you.
Barry.
All right, Ms. Stroud, would you like to introduce yourself?
Trout with DHS.
Okay, and from RGC, it says RGC backup hearings on your screen, sir. Would you give us your name?
Michael Allison.
Thank you. Welcome. All right, Deputy Ames, I'd like to start with Ms. Trout with her comments, if you could swear.
Ms. Trout, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, Ms. Trout, I have your report in front of me. Your comments for the record, please.
I do want to start out by apologizing that, oh, I'm sorry, there's a bad echo. Is that on my end?
I think it's just on your end. It's a little garbled at the outset of your sentences over here, but I can keep up with you.
Okay. I do want to apologize that I did not receive this investigation until Friday. I know it was sent to us on the 11th, so I did not have time to talk to everyone that I would like to or complete a home assessment. I did speak with Linda and Cindy. They both are in agreement that the children are in better care with Cindy and Franklin due to Linda's health, but she's still willing to help out on whether it's weekends or just kind of however she needs for almost like a respite care thing. Cindy reports that she is able to financially help the children. They currently are receiving Medicaid, food assistance, and SSI. And she would like to figure out how to get that switched over to her name if possible. And then we also discussed childcare assistance for the summertime. I did not have time to speak to the children themselves, but I do know the children have been staying with Cindy for a few months, and both Linda and Cindy reported that they enjoy spending time with Cindy and Franklin. The three boys share a room over there, and everything has been going well. I did speak with Max's father, Joshua, and he does have some concerns of not knowing exactly who Cindy and Franklin are, but said that he has spoke to Linda about it and she's kind of reassured him, but he would like to have more contact with Max, and he's actually willing to take all three boys if that is something that would like to be considered.
All right, were you able to do the home investigation for Cindy and Frank?
I was not able to go to the home, but I did speak with Cindy about it. She does live in a 4-bedroom home. The three boys share a room with a 3-bedroom bunk. They have no shut-off notices, and they do have all the working utilities. Linda reported that Cindy's home is also clean, so there are no concerns there, but I myself was not able to go out.
Do you support the requested change in guardianship?
Because I don't have a full investigation, the department does not have a stance on the guardianship. I wasn't able to do enough of an investigation to have an opinion.
Were you able to look at any school records or any other community records for the children?
I did not look at the school records. I do know they are at Alexander. They were there prior to the children going with Linda, and they're going to continue to go to Alexander with Cindy. Excuse me. I did look at criminal history. There were no concerns with Cindy and Franklin. There was one with Jacob, which is Cindy's adult son in the home from 2022, regarding operating a vehicle with any BAC with children in the car. So that is a concern that if the guardianship is to be transferred over, I think safety planning needs to be done about that. None of the adults in the home are on central registry.
Would you continue to work with the family to do that safety planning if I made the change today, or would you prefer that I gave you some more time to do that before I made my decision?
I can do safety planning after you make your decision. That's fine.
All right, Deputy Ames, I'd like to hear from the rest of our participants. So if you could swear in Ms. Linda, Frank, Cindy, and I'm sorry, what was your name again? Is it Mark from online here?
It's Michael.
Mike, thank you.
You can remain seated, but raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth? Sir, can you raise your right hand? Thank you, sir. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? And please give me a verbal answer.
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Yes,
Sir, thank you.
yes.
Very good. All right, Miss Linda, let's start with you. Please tell me what's happening with your family and what changes you think need to happen and why.
Well, my husband died in November, Thanksgiving. And when we first were put in charge of guardianship, we always worked together. And when he passed, it just took a toll on all of us, actually.
Deputy Ames, would you move that microphone a little closer?
Certainly.
I'm trying to hear you. I'm very sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
You don't have to worry about this.
Okay. That's
why I asked you to do it.
I'm not a court person, sorry. Yeah, and when he passed, it was really difficult for me to keep caring for the boys in a way that they needed. And as time went on, I had picked up papers from the probate to try to get somebody to help as far as guardianship. I was going to set up a family meeting with everyone and see what we could figure out. I didn't want them to be split up, but I knew I couldn't give them the care that they needed. And it doesn't matter how much you love people, your kids, your grandkids, there's specific things that they need that I couldn't give them. So I wanted the best for them. I had picked up paper and was gonna have a family meeting. I had an emergency surgery. My spleen ruptured. Wasn't planning on it. It was, you know, I didn't want to go to the hospital until I made sure I got a hold of family to take care of the boys. And they did. And when I came out of the hospital, everything had changed. And the boys were at Cindy's. She's watched them in the past. When my husband died in the hospital, 2 weeks, the boys were at her house. So the boys are real familiar with Cindy. They love Cindy, vice versa. They all love each other and they're happy. I have not seen them this happy since before their mom died. I mean, so I know this is the right thing, and it's more for medical and, you know, reasons, I guess. And I just want the best for them, you know? I want them to have a really good future. You know, Cindy and Frank have 2 kids they've raised. One's a school teacher, got his own business. I mean, you know what I mean? And they're younger than me by 20 years. You know? So, you know, but I have to look out for their future. And, you know, I'm not gonna live forever. If something happens to me, I want somebody in place. And they are the closest to these boys in the family. Cindy's Nicole's sister, my daughter that was murdered. And I just think it would be the best thing. I really do.
Okay, Cindy, your thoughts?
I agree. I mean, Frank and I do very well. Sorry.
You're crying. I was
know.
afraid I wouldn't cry.
We do very well with the boys. The boys were very happy.
Well, talk to me a little bit about, practically speaking, what's changed for you and how you've made room for them, frankly, because there's 3, right?
Yes, there's
So,
3 boys.
It's a big change.
Yeah. We bought our house like 4 years ago, and for some reason we went to a bigger house, and I'm like, and I feel like God has a plan.
God did have a plan.
And we had like 3 empty bedrooms because our children had moved out. It was just my husband and I for the longest time. My son came back, but we still had 2 empty bedrooms. So, I mean, it's been an adjustment for sure, you know, raising 3 young ones again after being empty nesters, but it's working out fine. I mean, those boys, they're so responsible. Like they're just for 5, 7 and 10, like they just shock me how smart they are. Like I said, it's been an adjustment for us, but it's working. I mean, it's getting better day by day. Like, you know, there's those boys have been through so much in their little life, you know.
Okay. They're gonna be able to stay in the same school, I understand?
Yes.
How are they doing in school?
They're doing great.
I know.
Wyatt, the middle child, he's brilliant. Like,
Oh, he's the middle boy.
Max is doing great. We just got him enrolled in Lego robotics class. So, and they all love school. Like they get up every morning, no complaints. They're ready to go. I mean, they know the routine. I mean, they're excelling, all 3 of them. Connor just started kindergarten, so, and he's enjoying it. He loves it. So.
Any of them have any behaviors or any special needs that you'll have to take care of or are already taken care of?
Not really special needs. I mean, those kids have been through a lot. They've seen a lot, like probably more than any child in their life should see at their age. So like, I feel like, you know, I know they've been seeing a counselor at school. So, I mean, they do need some work. There's, you know, I'm sure they've got a lot of anger. I'm sure they've got a lot of trauma in their life. I mean, seeing their mom pass away, you know, right in front of them. I mean, it's heartbreaking for anybody. And then they became close with grandma and my dad, and then he passed away. And then grandma got sick, so
I know.
it's like they've had
They
a
were
lot,
scared to
you know,
death.
I just can't imagine what goes through their little minds, you know. But for the most part, they're doing okay. But you know, there's some, you know, I definitely believe like they need, you know, to continue counseling of some sort, you know, just to get them through everything that they've been through.
I appreciate that. That's what I was hoping you would say.
Yeah.
So Ms. Trout shared with us a little bit about your adult son that lives with you.
Yes.
And maybe something that happened with him. Can you tell me a little bit about that, whatever you're comfortable sharing?
Yeah, for sure. He moved out when he was 20, I believe. Yeah, he was 20 when he moved out. He moved out on his own. He had his own place and he was drinking and got pulled over. He had no children in the car with him. I mean, he doesn't have children of his own or anything, so. And he did his, you know, he paid his penalties and all that, but since then, he hasn't had anything come up on him like that, so.
I read that he has a pretty good relationship with the boys, it sounds like.
Yeah.
They love him so much.
Yeah, he built bases for them so they could play baseball in the front yard, like, and he'll play basketball with them. I mean, he really cares for those kids too, you know. I mean, of course, they get on his nerves, but he's 22 and like, he'll go to the barn and work on his dirt bike or whatever, so. But for the most part, they do have a great relationship.
So are you there? I mean, the change that they're asking for is to make this a permanent situation for you and your families. Is that what are you ready for that?
Yeah. Yes, I mean, we've been talking about it. We've expected it. I mean, yes, we're perfectly fine. I don't want to see those boys go to foster care and get split up. They've had enough trauma in their life. They don't need any more. So I feel like Frank and I are the most stable for them at this time, you know, and hopefully we can be there for them for as long as we're here.
So we've got Max's father too, Joshua now, who may need to have a relationship with his son in one way or another. Do you feel comfortable navigating that so that if he has contact with him that, you know, that's safe, but also that he has an interaction with him, if that's something.
I was kind of curious, on that note, you know, it's been 8 years, no contact. 9 years. Been 9 years since Max's dad has contacted him.
Okay,
So-
all right, I am gonna have to tell you guys one at a time because if Ms. Kudrow never has to make this transcript, she's gonna probably want to strangle. So let's go one at a time.
So that's kind of my concern. Being that they have had a lot of changes and it's to deal with the changes already and then to change another situation is gonna be a lot more on that. And please ask me, it's a lot. So the change, let's all think about through first before we make any more changes on the kids' part. We have
a provider in the community, Ms. Brene Moore, that has a parent reintroduction program. And so in a lot of foster care cases, for example, we'll ask her to talk with the child and to let us know if she thinks that the child is ready for a change like that. And if that's the case, then she can help spearhead that process so that it's safe for both child and parent, really, but mostly for the child, obviously, is what I'm concerned about. So would that be something you'd be willing to do if Max's father continues asking? Would we maybe involve Brene Moore to see if she'd be willing to have a look at the situation for you from a professional perspective?
Is there gonna be background checks and everything done in that part as well?
That's what we're hopefully going to be counting on Ms. Trout to bring to the table as well. Ms. Trout, I know you've kind of done some of that for everybody in Michigan, but I know you'd have to probably reach out to somebody in the state where Josh was living. Would you be able or willing to do that?
Actually, with guardianship investigations, after you make your decision, we don't continue working with the family, and I'm more than happy to do the safety planning and all of that. But when it comes to coordinating with Alabama, I believe that's where he's at. That would be kind of outside of my scope of things.
All right. So probably if there's a request for that formally, then you could really reopen the guardianship and ask for a review hearing on it. for guidance on that point, if that becomes something that you need some help with, I guess, moving forward. So in other words, if Joshua continues to ask or files an official request for parenting time, we can reopen the guardianship officially to look at whether or not parenting time is in the child's best interest, and then I can ask Ms. Trout again at that point to do those background checks. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's,
You're always welcome to consult an attorney, you know, on those questions as well, which is probably the better way to go than just our brief conversation about it here on the record.
So I just have a quick question, because she had said that Joshua had reached out to maybe having contact with all three boys. Like those two, the two youngest ones
Right.
don't know him. Like, why, what is the reason for that? He hasn't even had contact with his own son.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, that bothers me. So,
So, and the two of you, if you become the full guardians, would have full control over who gets to see the child and when and where and how. So
okay.
you would be in charge of that, and all I would be looking for you to do is to act in their best interests.
Yeah,
You know, if he is a person that could be, you know, another support in their lives, then I would ask you to be open-minded about it. But
right.
if there's signals that indicate that that may be unsafe for them, whether that's from a counselor or otherwise, then I would ask you to investigate that on your own, or maybe even ask CPS to help you investigate that if you needed to.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yeah.
Ms. Trout, you look like you were trying to say something.
Yeah, I just want to clarify, when I spoke with Joshua about Max, and then he brought up the other two boys, his intention is not to split Max from his brothers. And he said if it's necessary, like if Max was to come with him, he would also be willing to take the other two to avoid splitting the brothers up.
Well, Ms. Trout, I think the reservations here are that this person hasn't been part of their lives, any of them. So, and given their history and the amount of changes that they've already had to live through, before I would allow them to be reintroduced to him, or Max even to be reintroduced to him, I would want the opinion of a professional counselor, as we do in many other cases when we have these kind of situations.
I absolutely agree.
Okay.
Yeah, there's
All right.
absolutely, there's. Oh.
Yes, I was about to come to you. Marcus, right?
Michael.
Darn it. I'm really sorry about that. All right, Michael, what are your thoughts about the change and about everything else that you've been hearing here this morning?
To reiterate on the subject of what happened the day of this tragic incident, the boys did not see anything that happened. Nothing happening in front of them. I understand that it's not even, it's a point that yeah, they lost their mother, but it was not right directly in front of them. So I wouldn't like suggest counselors to push any of them kind of issues. You know, like did you see it or anything like that? It is a big change. Linda and Rob have always been really good in their lives. And now Cindy and Frank, we actually haven't seen them since our wedding day or our reception. They're real nice people. Sounds like the boys love them very much. And yes, they are. They're very smart boys, very smart. They love their homework.
Sir, when is your soonest possible date for parole or for consideration for parole?
2042.
All right, so from your position, if you could direct anything as far as what would happen to them while you're incarcerated, would you have any reason to object to Cindy and Frank and taking over those responsibilities?
No, I believe they're a loving family, and with as Cindy still works at the college there, then they'd be able to and you know, having children that are teachers as well, and boys would excel. Absolutely. The only request that I would ever have is if there was a way for eventually us to have, communication. I know the boys are gonna have questions. I know there is a lot of anger, hate, if that's, so I would definitely like to contact them at some point in this incarceration. Whether it's just, for closure for them, or if there is a sense of, a relationship in the future.
Oh, well, so how I would handle that, how we normally handle a situation like that is through a professional or a counselor. And it generally starts with letter writing. So if that's something you're interested in doing, I would ask the Wingfields to hold those and to consult with any counselor about whether or not, how and when to introduce those to any of the children, to see if in fact that could be something that would support them.
I had previously wrote letters to the boys, through to Linda and Rob. I don't know if they've ever got them, anything like that. But I have, Judge Anzalone had said that I wasn't allowed to contact the family, but that like completely annuls the fact that the boys are there, that I wouldn't be able to even contact them. And the thing with Mr. Lewis there, Joshua, he was not in Max's life. There was quite a few times that I had called to actually try to get him to talk to his son. Nicole never didn't want to, she didn't force a relationship, and she didn't like step out to see about Joshua having a relationship. I'm not sure if he's even seen pictures of his dad. And that was one thing that, I mean, I had issues with my children trying to see them and stuff, and I know what that's like. So.
All right, well, I
Seeing
appreciate,
my children go down there, seeing my children go down to Alabama with him after, not knowing him, or what says, is there an ulterior motive to that?
well, my jurisdiction ends at the
It's
state
just-
lines, so
Yeah, I
I wouldn't be
understand.
authorizing them to visit
understand.
unless it was something that the guardians decided that they wanted to explore.
Yeah, and absolutely, I am definitely, I mean, for Cindy and Frank to take care of the boys.
All right, thank you. Well, the court finds notice of hearing was given to all interested parties. The petition to modify the guardianship is appropriate, necessary, and the modification does serve the interests of all three children for many of the reasons that were expressed today. Ms. Schneider's been through some of her own health challenges and the loss of her husband. The whole family has lost him as a patriarch, and I am sorry for your loss, all of you on that point. It certainly does engineer the need for change for all three boys, and I think that Ms. Cindy and Mr. Frank Wingfield are certainly the people in their lives that they're familiar with, that are able to step into that role. I have no concerns based on the background checks that I've reviewed, as well as the testimony that I've heard. And so it will be the order of the court that they will be the new successor full guardians of all three children. And Ms. Linda Schneider will be permitted to resign from that role, but of course not permitted to resign from role of grandma. I know she intends to continue to enjoy that.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm not too worried about that. Any contact from either of the remaining parents in this case should be funneled through the professional counselors for the boys. So I'll offer that guidance to you by way of the court order, as well as here today from me directly. And you're welcome to explore that. If you do receive some contact, then I would ask you to immediately seek out a counselor to ask for their input on how to proceed with that. That person would hopefully want to meet with the child or children first in order to get a feel for that situation and to help advise you on what may serve their interests moving forward. All right, so I'm appointing both of you as full successor guardians for all 3 children. You have my guidance on visitation. Thank you for this, for stepping up for the boys. And unless there's any questions, that's all for today.
Thank you, Cindy and Frank. Thank you for taking care of them boys.
Absolutely.
You're welcome.
Okay, that's all for today.
Okay.
I'll have these orders across the hall.